Welcome to another episode of Simon Says, where facts come first. I'm your host, Jenny Simon. Today we're going to stick to Hurricane Beryl. And we know there are a lot of devastation out there. It's the beginning of the hurricane season. And so as we were told, we can expect a lot more and we can expect a very active season. So I want to start off by us going to the Lord in prayer.
Heavenly Father, in your infinite wisdom and boundless love, we come before you, seeking your divine protection from the storms that rage around us. We acknowledge your sovereignty over all creation and trust in your power to calm the tempests that threaten us. As we face the uncertainty of bad weather, we humbly ask for your shield of protection to surround us and our loved ones. Please grant us the strength to endure challenges and the wisdom to make sound decisions for our safety. Lord, you are the master of the wind and the waves, and we place our trust in your ability to command the elements. May your guiding hand be upon us, leading us through the storm and into the calm that follows. In the name of your Son, Jesus Christ, we pray for peace amid chaos and safety in the face of danger. May your grace be our anchor and your love our refuge. Amen.
Folks, we are coming out of a very rough week. For some, rougher than others. This is the beginning of the hurricane season. And as I said before, it's a very active one. It's predicted to be a very active one. Join me in thanking God for his mercies and that we are here today and that you are here to join in and be part of the Simon Says conversation. It is difficult for me to measure Beryl with any other, since Beryl was my first experience of a tropical storm or hurricane ever. Fortunately for me, I was always off island when there was a storm or a hurricane. I was off island for Ivan. And in my neck of the woods this time around, we barely experienced what it is a storm or a hurricane might be. It barely rained. There was no wind. And so I can safely say I still would like to experience what a hurricane or a storm is. We were lucky. We thank God for his grace and his mercies. I deeply empathize with those who suffered under the wrath and fury of Hurricane Beryl. If you're listening or viewing Simon Says today, it means you're alive, and that's a wonderful thing, because there are those, though for now it's a few, every life matters. And the last I heard from the authority, one death in Grenada, and in Carriacou and Petit Martinique, well, Carriacou, because I don't think there are none so far, in Petit Martinique, they said 3. The Prime Minister, in one of his last reports, said 3. From Carriacou, however, I saw a news release that said 8 so far from Carriacou, with several persons missing. What is clear, the people of Carriacou and Petit Martinique and the north of the mainland Grenada, and a little bit on the west, like Guave and St. Mark, are in desperate need of help. We empathize with them all. I want to play you a clip from a mother, a grandmother from Petit Martinique, as she spoke to the media on what she experienced.
The wind take the church door, the two door one time. Galvanized flaming in. Water coming from the top. We have to run from corner to corner. All of us just had to scream, jump in a corner and start praying to the Almighty for help. I've never experienced that yet in my life since I've been 73 years now. I never go through that. First time I see that in my life. I thought I would have gone, all of us would have gone, but the Lord still smiling on us. I have a Sunday, and up to now, I hear from him. I have some children in Canaan, and up to now, I can't hear from them. I don't know how they did, from how they did, and they know how me they neither. But one day, we will get you with them.
We also empathize with the islands beyond Grenada, who was also affected by Beryl, Union Island, Canaan, Mairo, Bequia, Petit St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Jamaica, Barbados to a very lesser extent. They got some rains, and so they were saved. Beryl was heading to Barbados and then to the Windward Islands. Barbados escaped again. Thank God. Venezuela, and now she's heading to Mexico and maybe Texas. Beryl, not making joke. It's a huge hurricane, making landfall at a category 4, almost 5 when it hit Carriacou. It's weakening, it's building back. She is just having the time of her life with us. Needless to say, with all of this, or should I say, before all of this, even though we were warned, there were some obvious screw-ups. This administration obviously had no plan. They obviously have a planning issue. This is not the first time. They just going along day by day merrily. They have no clue, and they're not seeking help, or they're not taking advice. I'm not sure what it is, but we have a problem. We have a problem. First of all, we were informed of Beryl since around Wednesday, the 26th June, 2024. We were informed of Beryl and the type of hurricane. From day one, they said it was going to be huge. It was going to be as much as a category 5 hurricane. And so we knew what was coming, or what we were supposed to look out for. Because of course, sometimes they change course, and so, but we were warned that it was going to come through the Windward Islands, and that Carriacou and Petit Martinique and the northern part of Grenada, mainland Grenada, was going to get hit directly, right? We were told Beryl was heading to Barbados and then through the Windward Islands and possibly Tobago. However, on Friday, the 28th of June, 2024, 3 cabinet ministers, Minister Andy Williams, Minister Delma Thomas, and Minister Tevin Andrew, who is the line minister for Carriacou and Petit Martinique Affairs, with MP Ron Redhead, flew out to New York. Now, as I said, and will stress again, Tevin Andrew is the MP, is the minister in the cabinet representing Carriacou and Petite Martinique. And we were told they were going to be in the immediate path of Beryl. They were supposed to have, or they did have, a meet and greet on Saturday the 29th of June, and on Sunday the 30th, a town hall meeting. The question remains, who were they representing? NDC the party or NDC the administration? I ask because Ron Redhead is no longer a member of the government of Grenada. He's not in the cabinet of Grenada. He was fired. He is now an MP and represents the St. George Northeast in the parliament. To me, he's more active now with the government, with the cabinet members than he was when he was actually a cabinet member. So we need a little bit of, we need to draw the line. It's all blurred now, but we need to draw it back so that we have a distinction between party and government. We need that. I wouldn't even ask who paid for their trip to go to the New York. I mean, what's the point of asking anyway, right? They had their advisor, so to speak, Ken Jones, was a part of the trip. He was in the streets in New York begging people to come out to the town hall, which eventually was canceled. So I am thinking, if you have a storm, a hurricane, and they described it as a category 5 heading your way, even if it wasn't heading directly to Carriacou and Petite Martinique, it's heading to Grenada, like Ivan did. You, as a member of the cabinet, as a member of parliament, the representative for that constituency, should stick around. Also, the representative for the South should stick around. Delma Thomas is the MP for St. Andrew, that is not southwest. Where is she? South, northeast, northwest. She is for northwest. These people were supposed to hunker down and to, make sure everything is in order, have a plan, put things in place, right? Make sure the shelters are in good condition with working facilities and running water. You hear complaints from persons in the shelters that the shelters had no food, the shelters had no water, toilets not working, right? They had no mattresses. I mean, I've seen some persons and men walking towards shelters with their mattress. But do you expect an older woman at 70 to pick up her mattress and walk, or a mother trying to get together her 5 or 4 kids and a baby toddler in it to come down the road with a mattress? You must have some, at least, even if it's foam, right? There for the people to lie on. I've heard of individuals in the shelters saying they had taken money out of their own pockets to purchase food and to share with others who didn't have any. I've heard of managers of the shelters having to dip into their pockets to purchase foods and bread and stuff for the people. I heard that they had no flashlights in most of the shelters. I mean, these information coming to me was shocking. But our ministers and MP pick up and still float. I am wondering who gave them the authority to leave. If it was I expected that to be the Prime Minister, and they were going to host this town hall as a celebration of their second anniversary. Why would you allow them to leave, to go to New York? Well, let me take that back, because he did leave as well. Eventually, he left on Friday. They left on Friday, right? On Friday the 28th. And he left on Saturday to Barbados, accepting an invitation from the Prime Minister of Barbados, Mia Mottley, who, by the way, made sure she addressed her nation at 9:30 p.m. on Friday in the evening. She addressed her nation, and by Saturday morning, she was addressing them again. She took care of her business. Our guy, our Prime Minister, Honorable Deacon Mitchell, instead of staying at home to meet with the relevant bodies, he left. He left and accepted an invitation to go to Barbados for cricket, to have fun. A whole day we lost. A whole day, because of course they were waiting on him. He has to make the final decisions. He has to say yay or nay. There was no plan for Carriacou and Petit Martinique. I don't know about Grenada, but since they said it was heading straight to Carriacou and Petit Martinique, there was no plan in case the hospital got badly damaged, which indeed it did. And then, as I said, the Prime Minister left. And then he decided, as far as the information coming to me said, to call them back from New York. Well, on Sunday, the 30th June, 2024, Tevin Andrew returned. The others returned on the 2nd of July after the fact. Don't know if they just didn't feel like coming back, if they couldn't get on the flight, but they should not have been struggling to get a flight back to Grenada when they should have been on the ground in Grenada. Right? Ron Redhead was posting in photos and posting stuff that people might have sent to him. I thought he was on island. I was surprised to hear that he returned on the 2nd of July. Well, I know that if Andy Williams was in Grenada, we would have known. We'd have seen him up on top of a house or jogging galvanized or up in a tree somewhere. We would have seen that. Oh yes, the busiest minister. So it was obvious that he was not on island. Right? That's our designated acting Prime Minister. Left the island with a hurricane in the making, on the way. They knew that. We knew that since Wednesday. They left on Friday. So I'm not surprised when the Honorable Prime Minister, Deacon Mitchell, accepted the invitation. He being the minister with responsibility for the National Disaster Management Agency, NADMA. He is the line minister for that ministry. Accepted an invitation to the cricket final day in Barbados. On Saturday, the 29th June, Fisherman's birthday, he accepted an invitation to view the final day of cricket, boarded a jet, and left for Barbados. This time, Prime Minister Mia Mottley had all her I's dotted and all her T's crossed, thoroughly informing her nation on what's coming, on what they should do, where they should go. I mean, it was clear, it was crystal clear as she addressed the nation, the Barbadian nation. She told them how much rain was threatening, 3 inches of rain. The winds was going to be 40, 50, 60 miles per hour. In fact, it was Prime Minister Mottley's information I followed to put my home in order and to get ready for Beryl. So instead, Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell stayed at home and met with and be briefed by the stakeholders, in this case, the National Emergency Advisory Council, NEAC, NEAC. He boarded a jet to Barbados to go hang out with his rich friends from Dubai. If you look on the screen, you see, like, not a trouble in the world. NEAC waited for his return to meet with him. And while still in Barbados, an announcement of a 6:30 press conference was made, which went to 7:30, then to 8, then to 8:30. Eventually, around 8:44 p.m., the press conference was held. If you look on the screen, you would see where they're meeting. He's meeting with the stakeholders, Grenada, Nawasa, all the persons who have to come together to arrange and to make decisions as to what will happen then. In the night, in the evening, they're putting this thing together. Instead of it, we could have had it during the day on Sunday. You know, on Saturday, I'm sorry. On Saturday, we could have done that and be ahead and make sure shelters are checked, that after the first wind blow, roofs not flying out. Some people's home might have stood up better than some of the shelters. We have to get our act together. This is not funny anymore. This is a country. We're talking about lives. We're talking about livelihood. We're talking about children. We're talking about the elderly. We need to buckle down. You know, it's so heartbreaking to see how we had to scamper to see how right here on mainland, persons are cut off from the rest of us. St. Mark, people without electricity, without roof, without water, without communication. St. Patrick, we're not hearing much about them. We hear mostly about Carriacou and Petit Martinique. But there are those out there who need immediate attention as well. And when the Prime Minister was questioned about his trip to Barbados, this was his answer.
A question to the Prime Minister.
Sure.
My question to the Prime Minister is, throughout the day, and you go to Facebook, there are people who are expressing concern of him going to Barbados. Prime Minister, what would you tell the people who are concerned that you made that trip to the cricket?
I have nothing to say to them.
All right, thank you, Linda. We have.
That's funny. Plain face. I have nothing to say to them. You guys are on your own. If I want to go to Barbados and watch my cricket, I could go to Barbados and watch my cricket. A jet was sent for me. I could go to Barbados and line with my friends from Dubai, my friends from the Middle East. We had a damn good time. And on the jet, I met up with my good old friend from St. Lucia, Prime Minister John Pierre. We hung out and we had a good time, right? You know, time did not make a difference this time around. NADMA now has a state-of-the-art building to call home, thanks to the former administration that did nothing over the past 23 years, right? But our Prime Minister sat comfortably at the NADMA headquarters and gave updates, right? In 2004, NADMA didn't have headquarters. We got whatever we got from persons on the radio until, well, I shouldn't say we, I wasn't here, but I'm speaking generally about Grenada. They, from TV stations and until they were no more, right? We didn't have social media for people to be sending, messages and where you can pick up what's happening and know when to run and not to run, that sort of thing. There was nothing like that 20 years ago. There was nothing like that. But today, we have, as I said, a new headquarters, state of the art. And so the Prime Minister was able to bring to us updates, which it was a good thing, but there were persons that could have done that as well. We, the people representing the Grenada, the Nawasa, he brought it to us. He brought it to us. He got a lot of props about that is leadership. Okay. For those who think so, that's fine. That is leadership. Is it though? Just giving us updates on things and not because you have a place to do so right now. You can do so. Okay, so we give them that. That's leadership for you. Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell every how much hours giving updates. That's leadership. Retired police officer and disaster management expert Sylvan McIntyre was called in when water was moon and flower. He was called in, and also ACP John Mitchell, who used to be in charge of operations and was recently reverted to superintendent of police, victimized and banished to the port, was also called in. Give the gentleman what's due to him. He deserves it. Give him the raise and bring him back to ACP John Mitchell. Not that he help out. No, that he help out. Okay? Give him his rights, man. Information reaching me is that the RGPF did not have a plan on paper as to their duties. Neither did the public service. The shelters were not stocked with food. Persons had to purchase food from their own pockets. In some cases, shelter managers had to push their hands in their pockets as well to help out. Shelters were not checked and renovated before the hurricane, like in the month of May April, May, to make sure that there are shelters. People running from their homes to the shelters and then have to run from the shelters to save their lives. However, there are those in the north of the island and a little on the western side, of course, who are still cut off from communication, still without electricity and water, roof gone, no clothing to wear, and our Prime Minister lifted the state of emergency. On the morning, on Tuesday morning, bright and early at 6:59 a.m., the state of emergency was lifted. When a state of emergency is lifted, employers expect their employees to show up to work. But how can you if you don't have electricity, you don't have a roof, all your clothing got wet, you don't have water, you don't have no communication to even say to your boss, I cannot come to work, I'm in distress. The south of the island, in your neck of the woods, Prime Minister, was practically untouched. Just little rains and winds. Like I'm in the south as well. But the south is not Grenada. So it's okay for the people in the south to move around, to go to their supermarkets. Most persons didn't even get wet. Their roofs remain, their clothing all nice and dry, their vehicles intact. We did not experience Beryl in the south of the island. Some parts got a little more rain than others. They had a little bit of fallen trees because we have to remember it started to rain since Saturday, heavily, really, really heavy rains. And so, of course, the soil loose. Some places, a tree or two fell down and that sort of thing. Branches came down, a lot of debris. But for the most part, we did not experience Beryl in the south of the island. And so, there are persons who are in distress at the moment, not only in Carriacou and Petit Martinique, but on mainland Grenada. And I must stress it that the people in St. Patrick and St. Mark, even St. John, I was told, they are persons that are distressed in these areas. So we need not forget them when we talk about Carriacou and Petit Martinique. The Prime Minister went to visit. He couldn't use the Coast Guard. He had to wait on a helicopter. I mean, I'm not surprised. It's the same thing as Mount Royal and Cinnamon Hill. Mount Royal is empty. He had to rent a $20,500 home because Mount Royal did not meet the standards. I don't understand the reason for not using the Coast Guard bright and early on Monday or Tuesday, rather, to go to Carriacou to see what's going on with the constituents there. We had to wait for the helicopter, land in Carriacou, and to date have not spoken or seen the minister responsible for Carriacou and Petit Martinique affairs. And he's saying this in a briefing that he didn't get to see him. I don't understand who's briefing you, who's telling you what's going on in Carriacou, who told you? The person on the street, everybody have their own story, right? I don't know if the minister didn't know the helicopter was coming and what time the helicopter was coming and where the minister was. So he didn't meet the helicopter or the Prime Minister coming off his helicopter. I think that's the next thing he's gonna buy. I think he needs to buy 2 helicopters. He couldn't make the plane. He couldn't buy the plane because he didn't understand the system, what was supposed to happen for him to be able to purchase a plane. But I think he could purchase 2 helicopters. I think that would do us just fine. Because we're scrambling to get a hospital up and running. And lest we forget, we spend 1.5 million allegedly, because they're not telling us how much they spend on these drones. They're just not telling us how much they spend on these drones. So we scrambling to set up a field hospital, and Prime Minister coming in on helicopter. Can't travel with the Coast Guard. That Coast Guard that brought up Minister Tevin when he came from New York on Sunday. The Coast Guard took him up to Carriacou. The very said Coast Guard. We had one of the first roofs to go in Grenada on the carronage was the roof of the fire station, the central station on the carronage. The roof sat nicely in the streets. Did we check our police stations? Did we make sure everything, boiled down? The fire station is old. The fire station probably need proper renovations, but their hurricane bolts and so, if they didn't have any, then you can put bolts and try to save that from happening. The roof was sitting in the street in front of the fire station, and other debris from the fire station. There are persons out there who has nowhere to go, no home. Their families' homes are destroyed as well. And not just in Carriacou and Petit Martinique. I'll say it again, on mainland Grenada. As I understand it, some persons try to get into some of the low-income housing in Bouchejou and in Carriacou, and they were removed and put back out in the street in the rain. I know the one in Bouchejou for sure. It happened. Persons in the area, they ran for rescue in the housing project, locked up. They just need shelter for a couple of days. They were removed by the police, as I understand it, with guns out in the rain. They have nowhere to go. Most of the shelters are overcrowded. And some persons didn't have time to get to the shelters. We know they're the ones that always sit back, but I understand that most of the shelters are overcrowded. So we needed more shelters. But was the survey done? Did people take into consideration that even with Ivan, persons didn't even have time to get to the shelters? Remember, Ivan was in the dark, in the night. It came. And so persons just waited out wherever they could take cover. And I don't know that these shelters has been used as shelters for many, many years. So we can't just say because it was down on the list that yes, that's a shelter. Did we check? Did we make sure everything was in order? No, it wasn't done. These questions should have come from the Prime Minister. And I'm not talking about the cricket day, months before. He's the minister, the line minister, he's the Prime Minister, he is the Minister of National Security as well. He's the Minister of Infrastructure. He has all the ministries that have anything to do with what happened over the past few days. All of the ministries, he has them. But that's leadership. Sitting in a state-of-the-art building, giving updates, that's leadership. Boots on the ground. What we need now is literally boots on the ground to build back as fast as we can. These people are without homes. They have nowhere to go back to. We better rent the helicopter for a while because you're going to need to move around. Simon says, thank you, the electricity company, Nawasa, the telecommunication company, for their diligence in getting us up and running in places where there are no huddles, because there are some places still without electricity, and that's the areas where they had a lot of broken poles, and Grenada has to put back these poles and stuff like that. I remember with Ivan, it took months because it was worse than this, and persons' homes had to be rewired before they could have been connected back to electricity. And so Beryl, in my opinion, was not half as bad as Ivan from what I understood. And just from the electricity people working so quickly and being able to restore electricity in quite a bit, a large part of mainland Grenada. Of course, Carriacou and Petit Martinique is another story. And so we thank them for their hard work being out there. They have families as well. And they're out there, they've been out there in the rain, in the dark, trying to get the country back up and running. Someone suggested, and I'm bringing it out here because I think it's a great suggestion, that the existing conditions at Carriacou and Petit Martinique, that the government should make a bold decision to relocate most of the people to mainland Grenada for the next 6 months. In the first instance, that is, while they map out rebuilding and reconstructing a plan for the both islands. And I think it's a good idea because I heard the manager of NADMA, Terence Walters, saying that, telling people to hold on, persons from mainland who are ready and willing to go to Carriacou to help in whatever way they can, to wait it out still. They have nothing in place yet for persons coming from the mainland to where you're going to stay. You need food to eat, water to drink. Right now, the food and the water is to go to the people of Carriacou and Petit Martinique. So they're asking us to hold out still, right? Some persons that are going up, I think like the utility people, and so they go up in the morning. I understand some come back down in the evening and go back up in the morning, that sort of thing, because they have no place really to stay. So it would be, I find it's an excellent idea to bring them to Grenada, to the mainland, while you try and put things in place and get ready for them to return home. Woke up this morning to an article from the New York Times. If you look on your screen, headline, officials in Grenada were scrambling on Wednesday to set up a field hospital after Hurricane Beryl ravaged nearly all the buildings on the nation's island of Carriacou, including its lone hospital. Amidst all of this, we have some questions we need answers to. While Beryl was hitting us hard, Jason Phillip, the egg trucker in the south, a poultry farmer, was placed in the Government Information Service, GIS, as manager. Over the likes of well qualified for the job, Miss Leslie Ann Johnson, who's been acting in that position, Abigail McIntyre, and Sherry Noel. Is it true the project manager from the police headquarters on the Carronage, Mr. Dwight Sampson, is also now being placed in GIS? I was informed that Mr. Sampson said he left the project after Simon Says was aired, and that he did not know of all the corruption that was taking place. Mr. Sampson was part of the corruption, you know. But I guess he got a better paying job through the government of Grenada. It's amazing how these people, some of these people, so many of them are up and all, what do we say, all Zandoli came out of their hole once NDC came into office and were being placed in high positions. Huh? Is it true the wrong pegs are placed in square holes by the overall manager of the GIS, Mr. Orlando Romaine? Is it true GIS is really being run by a company on Old Fort? Is it true the finalists of the Independence Calypso competition are automatically in the semifinals of the Calypso 2024 competition? You guys understand what I just said, right? Word is the finalists of the Independence Calypso competition, using their song, their independent song, are automatically allowed to enter the Carnival 2024 Calypso competition in the semifinal division. So now they say they want 50 Calypso, 25 Calypsonians, and each Calypsonian sing 2 Calypso. So they want 50. That's their excuse for pushing out the persons who were not did not take part or did not make it in the Independence Calypso competition. Who is to say that somebody who was in the Independence Calypso competition and sang in a tent would have made the semifinals? Who's to say that? It's a competition started fresh. The independent song should not even be allowed in the Carnival Calypso. But no, it's up, 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 and she's still young, and you know, all the little lullabies gonna come in there. Keep an eye on that. Keep an eye on that. Is it true the suggestion was made in the dark of the sun? Folks, also be mindful, there are endless GoFundMe pages out there, all asking for help for Carriacou and Petit Martinique. Be careful. There's one that came out from the consulate through Miss Frances, so you know she must be in the jump up once there is money to be made. Be careful, my friends, where you put your money. Make sure that it's a legit organization asking for help on behalf of the people of Carriacou and Petit Martinique. Be careful. There are about 20 of those out there. I'll leave you with a clip of the situation in Carriacou. It's rough, it's bad. Carriacou and Petit Martinique need our help. Please help however you can, support however you can, not forgetting the ones on mainland in St. John, St. Mark, St. Patrick, some parts of St. Andrew. We listen and wait, listen to the updates and wait until we are told what we can do. I do hope that it's moving, it's faster than it's coming, because these people need help ASAP. And so we need to know, those of us who wants to help, we hear, we adrenaline flowing, we want to help. So please move a little faster. Let us know where we can help and how we can help the persons who were devastated by Hurricane Beryl. Folks, this is a wrap on today's episode of Simon Says. Thank you again for joining me. It was just a filler. I just had to talk about what's happening with the hurricane, and so I came out to speak to those of you, especially who are not on social media and don't have a clue what's going on, because everything happening these days in social media. And so it's a wrap. As always, keeping you informed and keeping them honest. Thank you for joining me on Simon Says for yet another episode where facts come first. See you next week, next episode, same time, same place. Bye now.
So this was the government shelter here on the windward side of the island, the Dover Government School. It collapsed in the first part of the storm and everyone had to run for cover to the library. Now, this is the makeshift shelter. This is it. This is where everyone is taking shelter at this point.
Everybody's engaged.
At least, right? 30 some people? 30 some people are calling this library home. You have elderly, babies, pregnant women, and they're doing the best they can. They're living like a family, as they say at this point. They're cooking communally, they're sharing resources, whatever they were able to salvage from their homes that are flattened at this point. Sadly, one woman lost her husband in the hurricane. One of at least 2 people that I can confirm lost their lives in this storm.
So this is where we was at first. And then the windows started to break, so we had to move from here and go to that bigger part. And by the time we went in there, the roof was going, so we had to fight my vehicle, which is over there. It was parked right there, and we had to hide behind the vehicle to fight to go to the kitchen. And then when the eye of the hurricane thing ceased, we tried to come out and end up here. And here we are right now.
We're washing, as you can see.
We're washing, we're doing everything.
We're washing because them children are no clothes to wear, so we have no food. Everything gone. We have.
So all the supplies that were inside are gone?
Everything is gone. Everything is gone. Everything is gone.
No place to stay.
Right now we're just trying to see what we could do to survive, be like a family here, because everybody needs to lean on everybody right now.
Yeah.
Thank you for tuning in to Simon Says. To ensure that you never miss an episode, click subscribe and make sure to turn on the notifications by clicking on the notification bell icon. See you at the next episode.